What's one thing you wish more people understood about the realities of fatherhood?
You didn't really have like an example of a dad in your life. You had a child out of wedlock.
That's right.
How were you able to step up the way that you did?
What advice do you have for other dads in situations like that? Hello and welcome to another episode of Can I Grow with Liv and Ro. I'm nervous.
I'm excited about this episode. We're going to be introducing a new segment. We call it Real People, Real Stories. And during this segment, we interview people and we ask them questions and they tell us about their story. And we really just want to tap into regular people, people, your average Joe.
And while we're in our journey of growth, we're also going to be introducing something new, which is how did we grow each episode? And we want you to also interact with us by telling us how you grew each week. So let's get it started, Ro. How did you grow this week, girl?
How did I grow this week? That's a good question. I would say, and it can be something simple. So I say for me this week, I drank more water. I've been struggling on drinking my water, and I drank more water this week.
You go, girl. You go, girl. How did I grow this week? This week, I learned I have a lot of patience. I have a 1-year-old son, and for some reason, the night before we traveled here to Maryland to visit my parents, he decided to wake up at 3 a.m. to kiss me and tell me, hi. And literally everything in me wanted to just scream, but I was calm. I kissed him back, and I, did the mom thing. So
yeah,
I had patience this week.
I tell my kids, patience is a virtue.
Yeah.
And they repeat it. Let us know how you grew this week, and who knows, you may get something special from us if you participate. So let us know in the comments in what way, big or small, how you grew this week.
And something else, bro. Y'all don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. That's how we keep going. So
turn on your post notifications
Exactly.
so you'll know when an episode drops. We drop every Monday, just so you know. And tap in.
Let's get into it. So this week we have 2 very special guests. They just happen to be the people that we were named after.
Yeah.
We have
my dad, Roland.
and my dad, Oliver. So Olivia, Oliver,
Rolanda.
So dads, can you briefly, and by briefly I'm talking to my dad, briefly tell the people who you are and just a little, just so they know who they're listening to.
My name is Roland Holloway. I grew up in Norwell, Virginia. I'm retired and love my grandkids.
Well, I love my name, and it's Oliver Lorenzo. Actually, it's Oliver T. Lorenzo Simpson Boyd. And I come from Liberia, West Africa. Proud to be from the first state independent country of West Africa, the oldest Negro nation.
Oh gosh.
I'm a pastor. Yeah. So that's what I am. And father of 5 kids, Olivia, and the oldest daughter.
Thank you for being here, guys. So with Father's Day coming up, we thought it would be great to start conversations with fathers and just show the dynamics of fatherhood. Let's hop into it.
So we're gonna start off with a lighthearted one. So fatherhood is such a roller coaster. What's been one of your proudest moments, and what's a time that you were just making things up as you go?
That's for both of you guys.
Anyone can hop in at any time.
That's a lot of questions right there.
Proudest moment, a time where you were just winging it.
I'll deal with the proudest moment. I think the proudest moment I've had as a dad was actually, Olivia, when you graduated, the first child graduated, daughter graduated from high school. The year my boys graduated from high school this grade. girls are accomplishing for me is a little different. So those were the proudest moments in my life, seeing my daughters going 12 years and then getting out of high school.
Yeah.
Being in that crowd.
The adrenaline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great. It's been, seeing the guys make that big step.
Aww.
I think mine was probably both of my kids were born. I got emotional both times. I was there for both of them, and it was exciting. And the exciting was brand new, of course, and I was really excited. It was the best time. It takes a lot for me to shed a tear, and I think I shed a tear both times.
That's cute.
I know it's real. My dad cried. I'm like, okay, this is real. Yeah. So I'll jump into a question. Looking back, what was the biggest lesson you learned from your own father or father figure, or how has that influenced the way you parent your kids?
My father wasn't in my life, so it kind of taught me you can't miss what you can't measure.
Yeah.
And I never had a father, so my aunts and uncles kind of raised me, and my mom and my mom. And so I learned from them, and it helped me to become a strong man.
Yeah.
It took me down a path where I knew I had to be strong for my kids. I wasn't going to go down the same path he went.
So I was blessed to have my dad baptized me. He was a pastor. He baptized me. And, he served as vice president of my PTA. He officiated my wedding. Being a pastor, he officiated my ordination. What else did he do? He was my best man in my wedding.
He drove you to your honeymoon.
He was my driver. He was the driver at my wedding and drove me to my honeymoon. So he had a big presence in my life, and it means a whole lot. And I think it formed me as a parent and as a father.
I guess my next question is this. Sometimes it feels like dads don't get enough credit. What's one thing you wish more people understood about the realities of fatherhood?
The reality of fatherhood is going to be ups and downs,
Yeah.
and sometimes your kid is not going to like your answer.
Yeah.
But when they grow up, they look back in retrospect and say, but that's what they right answer.
As a young father, though, because I'm putting myself in the foot of like a new father who's just learning this new thing, and sometimes like fathers the question said, fathers don't get enough credit. So you feel as if you're already not getting enough credit, you're not being valued in your home like you used to, whether it's from your wife, from your children, whatever it is. Like, how do you keep pushing and moving through that feeling of like, although I'm not getting the credit, like think about it. Mother's Day, we go all out. Father's Day, we're gonna get y'all a pair of socks. So what motivates you, or what is that drive behind y'all to just keep doing it?
Keep going, right?
Yeah.
It's just making sure that your child is being raised the right way.
Yeah.
It's just the things that you've learned about your child, about you being raised. So we don't want to make the mistakes that we thought our parents made. We want to make all the right choices for you all.
Yeah.
And sometimes we fall short. We'll realize that later on down the road when y'all tell us, well, damn.
We call that out.
And this day and age, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say this day and age, we are known to
Mental health. We call our parents out. Accountability.
Yeah, that's something that's very hard to.
Prohibitive. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's difficult because we perceive things differently.
Yeah.
And our intention, toward you guys are, I think, exceedingly higher and greater than the expectation we think you all have for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So we got this big vision. We want our kids to achieve 10 times more than we achieved. And having passed the road you all are on, we can predict some of the challenges you're going to encounter.
Yeah.
And it's difficult trying to help you all see the reality that it's impossible for you all to not just see but comprehend, to understand. You know, so that's one of the difficult things I think in our parenting and being a father, when you're very certain and convicted about certain things, and your kids can't see what you see, and you know you're seeing the right thing. Exactly. You know? And we always see the right thing.
According to y'all always do.
Right, I know it all, okay? But I gotta say, a lot of times.
you do. Honestly, as an adult now, I find myself quoting my dad and like, oh my God.
Like, you sound just
Right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I sound like that man.
Are there any aspects of fatherhood that you find particularly surprising or unexpected?
I have two boys, Odysseus and Oliver. You would expect that you see things easier as men, but I think it has been much easier for me communicating with my girls than with my boys. You know, and I don't know whether it comes from the nature of us being independent and want to, you know, succeed on our own, and the girls have more passion, you know, and tenderness, and not wanting you to feel bad. The guys don't care whether you feel bad or not. Yes. So I think on that aspect, expectation as a father, that's where I think
It surprised you.
that actually surprised me.
Okay.
Well, I would say it's probably dating for me. You know, when my kids were younger and 13 and 14 started getting interested in boys, it was a change for me. I was like,
That was tough.
I was like, no. And Rolanda can tell you, I was strict on, what are you doing on, what was it, Bebop?
The Bebo. My first social media. I don't know if y'all know.
For the Gen Zs.
Bebo was my first social media.
Yeah, that was a big change.
I know. I just want to apologize to y'all for all the times where y'all told us not to do stuff and we did it anyways. I definitely had a MySpace even though my dad tried to block me out. And I think that before we close, I actually have, because this segment is going to be called Daddy's Girls.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you guys, like, what has raising daughters been like for y'all? What does it mean to you?
It's been a pleasure for me, really. It really has. We named Rolanda because my name's Roland, but we wanted a boy.
Yeah.
So beautiful, but Rolanda has been a blessing. She's been a blessing too. She's been a blessing to us.
And seeing her grow, like how, because out of everybody, you've seen her from the day she was born to seeing her as the woman she is today. And to any young dad out there specifically who has a newborn daughter in the situation that you are, what would you tell them?
Well, it's the love that you have for your child.
Yeah.
You know, from the time, and the love changes. When they're young, they're in your arms all the time, and you're spoiling them right. Then they start to get grown a little bit, so y'all bump heads.
Yeah.
All of that is part of life and part of growing up, so don't get too overindulged in any of it.
Yes.
It's all a part of growing up.
Appreciate each phase of the
fatherhood. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
How about you?
I think the girls are just too demanding.
You literally just said that you like having girls.
I certainly do enjoy my girls. I've had I enjoy the fact that I have 3 girls, and each one is completely different, and my experience with each one has been completely different. What I remembered during the time, the youngest is 20, so that's a lot of memory. Braiding the hair, preparing them for school, playing that daddy, mommy role.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that in our segment.
And I think I created such a love for my girls, being able to interact with in that manner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing that has really made my girls, having these girls, very special for me, you know. And I had to do it not because the mother was not present, but because she had some challenges with her health during the course of time, and I had to, you know, step up and learn some new skills, you know.
We're really crazy. If you bullied me in elementary school, he's the reason why.
Good love your hair.
Yeah.
One braid and the ponytails.
I have a picture, and if I find out, I'll post it on Instagram where I have a braid going directly up. But anyways, thanks God. We'll wrap this segment up. We're gonna bring our dads back together at the end of this segment. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna have one-on-one times with our individual dads, because our dads have unique stories. Rose gonna tell more about her father, but her father was at one time a single dad of a daughter and did his thing with raising his daughter on his own. My father, we went through the journey of coming from Africa to America, and he had to start all over again with children. And like he said before, he has a dynamic where he's not the traditional African father, very hands-on. So we're gonna talk about our individual experiences, and hopefully a father out there can gain some wisdom and gem from their individual stories. So next up is our individual times with our dads. So Dad, are you ready for this? Because I need all the tea.
Let's go.
A little backstory on my dad. As he said, he's a minister. My family, grandfather actually, rest his soul, was in the government in Liberia at the time. So my grandfather grew up in, you know, the elite class in Liberia because of his father's status. But then a war came, and if any of y'all know anything about wars in Africa, they go for people in the government first. And so my grandfather was once he was a political prisoner, and then there was just a lot of turmoil, so we were moved to the United States. Well, first the Ivory Coast and then to the United States. So I tell that backstory because it's a segment into my first question. Like I said, my father grew up, you know, in kind of elite, they were really elite in Liberia at the time. And then after the war happened and we moved to the United States, you were pretty much stripped of all your status and everything, right? And you move here with a wife and at the time 3 children. Oh, you have my older brother was here, but in the house, it was your wife and 3 children. As an immigrant dad trying to build a new life in America, what were some of the cultural shocks you faced, and how did you keep, because we still are Liberian as heck, how did you keep your Liberian heritage alive while your kids were adjusting to new reality? And how did you adjust?
Coming to this country and talking about cultural shock, I come from a society where much of what we do is pretty much the same year. So assimilating was much easier because our culture and environment are pretty similar, okay? In terms of food, dressing, education, pretty much the same. The most difficult transition had to be the independence. We didn't have
The community
yeah, that we enjoyed back home.
Yeah.
So I came with 3 babies, pretty much. And back home, I had the luxury of having 2 nannies to take care of my kids. And when we moved in,
ain't no more nannies in America.
My wife and I had to find a job right away and start paying rent and paying bills immediately. And my brothers and sisters and aunts and cousins were not available like they are back home. I could drive to any family member or any of my close friends and say, you know, I need to leave here, we need to take care of Olivia for the day or for a few hours, without having to call, you know, in advance and make those kind of arrangements we have to do here. And so that was basically the kind of cultural challenge I had to face, you know. And you can imagine on your first month, you were like, shit.
I gotta take care of these kids on
You
my
know,
own.
you know, I gotta go to the grocery. Who's gonna watch the kids? You know, and it didn't come easy trying to juggle those things out. You know? So that was primarily, you know, our first, you know, challenge or cultural.
And I like that you touched on the fact that it didn't come easy too, because I vividly remember when we moved to the States. You know, we moved from back home, but we have a car, we have all these things. There was a time when we didn't even have a car, where there was our first winter in America.
Yeah.
We were, I remember it's snowing. Yeah, it was snowing. We're at the bus stop. My dad's there with all his kids, and it's snowing. We're freezing, and I'm like, in my mind, like, why are we even here? Like,
so this story she actually talking about, the kids wanted to go to the mall. I didn't have a car. And, you know, as a dad, your kids, I want to go to the mall, and I didn't have money to buy you guys anything, and I haven't been in a position where you could give them what they want and not be able to do it. It's kind of a little challenging. So I went the extra mile. I said, okay, get ready. We'll take the bus and go. And so I gathered my 4 kids together. There were four children at the time, and they were all toddlers. And I took them and we went out to the bus stop, and we were all sitting at the bus stop.
freezing.
You know, and we didn't know. I think we missed the bus, and we didn't know what the next bus schedule was.
Yeah.
So we spent a long time, and they were freezing in the cold, and I had to carry Oliver and Baby Joe, 2 babies, one in one arm and the other in the other arm, you know, in the bus. Yeah. And I remember that day I gave my, I think it was my wallet or something that I had all my IDs and everything
You
in,
lost it.
to one of my kids, and I you know, trying to take care of the little ones, and I lost all my documents, my ID and everything. And then I had to start that process all over again. Yeah, that was
literally moving to America. I always say, like, moving to America was a culture shock in a lot of ways. It was, you know, but the main way was just accessibility, not having community, like you said, and financial. You and Mom literally worked your butt off to, you know, build for us from ground up. And I especially commend you for, there was a time where I remember you had an opportunity to go back to Liberia or something like that. And we're already struggling in America financially, and he chose to stay in America and raise his children rather than go back home where he would have had financial success. Because I know a lot of people whose parents went back home and they make a lot of money to the point where they're sending their kids money here. And why did you choose to do that? Why did you choose to be here with us instead of going back and pursuing things that would have made you higher and gave you more money and more status, but you chose to stay here and be humble and pretty much work your butt off for us?
Making the decision of leaving, you know, to leave your family is pretty much like abandoning your family in the wilderness, you know, and knowing that they did not have that support system to navigate the challenges that we were faced with. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
We had to fight through together.
A lot of African dads, right, are not very hands-on with their children, right? But one thing I realized about you is you're very hands-on. Like my dad said earlier, he's the one doing our hair, driving us, very tender with us. Why did you take that approach to fatherhood? You know, the hands-on, get your hand dirty. I even remember when I was younger, I saw you had a parenting book, and I was like, why is he reading books about how to be a dad? I never said that to you, but I thought that I was being nosy and snooping through your things. But yeah.
I have 2 motivations. One, I always wanted to be a dad. And as early as elementary school, I always wanted to have 5 kids. And I always thought about having my 5 kids, and I got 5 kids. Having my children was something that I always wanted, I dreamed for. So it happening meant a lot to me. The second thing is when I met your mom, she she was not very, she didn't say much very good things about her father, about the experience she had with her dad. And I didn't like her perception about her father. And so I did not want my daughters to have the same image that she projected of her father.
Oh, yeah.
So coming into, our relationship, I was determined to make sure that it did not, her experience did not create an image of what
Fatherhood was.
fatherhood
for
was.
us. Okay.
So that was some of the things. The other thing is I had two sons. One that I actually raised, and so I raised pretty much Oliver. Odisha stayed with his mother, and so it was three girls, right? And having the three of you, nurturing you guys, bringing you up, I had to actually be in that gear of being able to raise girls.
So you brought up my brother Odysseus, who you had before you met my mom, right? So you had a child out of wedlock.
That's right.
Okay, Pastor Lloyd. So having a child out of wedlock is a big deal. It can be tough to navigate, especially with societal pressures from where you come from. How did you handle the situation, and what advice do you have for other dads in situations like that?
Well, I had Odisha as a young man, and obviously I was not prepared to be a father at the time I had my first son.
How old were you?
I had Odisha, I think I was 23.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 23 years old when I had Odisha. And so I'm not quite prepared to be a dad at the time, and I was not actually anticipating it. And I had Odisha. It's not anything I would recommend, because I believe kids deserve to be raised by the parents, both parents. But it can be very challenging when you do not have the full autonomy in
raising a child.
a child and the decisions that need to be made.
Yeah.
I think every father wants to make sure that he has the maximum amount of input.
Did you feel like you didn't have enough say in his life, or did you feel like you weren't as involved in his life as you wanted to be?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. When it comes to Odysseus, I do have a lot of regrets.
What are some of your regrets?
Well, I regret that I was not involved in his life as much as I would have liked to. I didn't have the opportunity to raise him myself.
That's a sore spot for you.
Yeah, I wish more have been, that I had the opportunity to be a dad to Odysseus the way that
you were to us.
I have been to the other kids.
I think that from what I'm getting from this podcast, and I've thought this for a very long time, you need to sit and have a conversation with him about the elephant in the room, which is his experience with you as a father and your experience and regrets as far as with him. Because backstory, he didn't just abandon his kids. Odysseus moved to America way before we did, and he moved to the other side of the country, and we were on the other side of the country, so we could only see each other on holidays and stuff like that. And before we moved to the States, it was kind of hard for them to even see each other. So that was the backstory for y'all try to come with my dad. But so how was it raising me? What was it like being my father?
Well, you've been a great kid, and being the oldest. We talk about regrets with Alicia, so let me talk about some regrets with you. So, having you all, kind of back to back, we place a lot of responsibility on you.
Yeah.
And when I look back and I think of some of the things, some of the responsibility I gave you when you were like 10 years old or 9 years old, I asked myself, was I really asking this 9-year-old, 10-year-old to,
He was.
and I go back and I really reflect on it, and it's like, I probably too was young, you know,
Yeah,
I didn't know better. But you've been a great kid, and I can tell you, amongst my children, I think we communicate the best.
Yeah.
Okay, you have the ability to see things the way I see it and understand it the way I do. So our language is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
You know, the other great thing about you is that I can listen to you. You have been a counsel and a source of wisdom in many ways.
Yeah.
You know, and I can give you a good example. When we're about to buy our current house,
Yeah.
I remember we sat in our room and you called us one day and you spoke to your mom and I. You remember that conversation?
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe it. I recorded that conversation and I have a recording of it.
Really?
Yeah, I recorded it because it was so inspiring.
Yeah.
You know, we're in the process of buying this house and we're going through
The
some.
market was tough.
The market was tough,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of stumbling blocks. And you call us and you said, "Where's your faith? You know, use your faith and pray in this way and pray in this manner and talk to God in this way and encounter, engage God in such and such a way." And believe it or not, I did exactly that. I recorded and I listened to that conversation several times, and I said, listen, the voice of man, like we say, is the voice of God.
Yeah.
It could probably be God inspired my daughter to speak to me, and these would be very powerful
Yeah.
words. This would be the word of God, and I followed it to the letter.
Yeah.
And within 30 days,
Yeah.
we settled on the house.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
So fathers, listen to your daughters.
So that's one thing I can really say about you. You're worth listening to.
Thank you. Oh, Dad, thank you. Well, I guess I gotta close by saying something nice about you too. I love you, Dad, and I really appreciate you. Anthony always jokes that I have a little too much confidence, and I think it's all because of you. I think growing up, I had the opportunity to have a father who sowed into me in every way. Spiritually, I think back to when you sat us down and taught us the 23rd Psalm. Emotionally, if nobody told me I was pretty, my daddy told me I was pretty from the time I was born. So I didn't really need anyone outside to tell me how beautiful I was. As far as confidence in things I could do, I remember you always telling me, like, if anybody else has done it before, that means you can do it and you can do it better. So I just want to thank you because I feel as if I am who I am because of you and because of the time, the love, the energy, the prayers that you poured into me. And I love you. And thank you for coming on my podcast. Although you don't like me on podcasts.
Tell us a little bit about your journey to fatherhood. Like, when did you have your first child? What were your feelings, emotions? Were you ready?
I had my first child at age 26. I went to college when I was 23, so it was right out of college, right during college, actually. I was in college. I met Kelly during college, and we dated for a while, and had a baby, as a lot of students do.
Yeah.
So
she went to school with you?
She went to, yes, Virginia.
Okay.
It was rough. It was really rough trying to stay in college and trying to raise a kid. We went through some ups and downs, and we ended up getting a apartment together.
Yeah.
But she had some problems herself with her parents, and she was raised by not a stepmom, but
like a foster mom
like
type
a
of
foster
thing.
mom, yes.
Yeah.
And she gave her a hard time. So, like I said, we ended up getting an apartment together and things were doing good, and okay. we ended up splitting up as usual. So, and she said to me, she said, I'm leaving, I'm moving in with another guy, and you can't see your kid.
Were you ready? When you found out she was pregnant, were you ready? Do you feel like you were ready to be a
I wasn't
dad?
ready, but I did want a child.
Okay.
I wanted to be a father. I thought Kim was a nice girl, and I thought,
It's okay, like, being a dad wouldn't be a bad thing.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
Exactly, so I was ready.
Okay, and then you jumped in a little bit until when the relationship ended. So when that relationship did end, how did you guys handle co-parenting?
It was difficult at first. It really was difficult. She moved in with another guy who said that I could not see my child.
How did you handle that? Because sometimes we have, like in this day and age, where, a lot of times mothers make it hard, sometimes for the man to see, they may be, bitter, or whatever the situation is, they make it kind of difficult sometimes. What encouraged you to keep, pursuing that? Because then at one point you went and put yourself up for child support, or what steps did you take?
Well, what made me want to continue and not be like a lot of dads just say, okay, forget about it. I realized that, I always said to myself, I'll never do my child like that because my dad basically did me like that.
Yeah.
So I said, I said to her, I'll just see you in court.
Yeah.
So I knew if I took her to court that the judge, I was willing to pay child support. I had no problem with that.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. I ended up taking her to court.
Yeah. And after going to court, how did you end up getting full custody of her? What occurred?
Well, we went to court, and as usual, the judge set up weekend visitation and told her, first of all, he told her she had to give me his address.
Okay.
So the judge gave me the address and said that I had 2 weeks every other weekend visitation and 1 week out of the year. So everything was going good. I was going by and picking her up and getting her and seeing her. My 2 days, and I'll take her back and so forth. Then one day, she told me that he said, call him names, he said I couldn't come over there to see her. I couldn't come see her anymore. So why don't you take her? That's what the mother said. Her mother said, why don't you take her? So I said, okay, give it to me, I'll take her.
That's kind of shocking too. Like, why do you think she went to say, you can take her? Because I know me being a mother, I wouldn't have said that. So what do you think caused her to say that, you can just take her?
Well, it wasn't all her fault. She was like I said, she came from a foster. She didn't have a lot of people.
Yeah.
And she had nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So because she had nowhere else to go, she said, she basically said to me, I don't want to do it, but I know you're a good dad.
That's what I was about to say. That's what I was getting to.
I know you will take care of her.
I would say that speaks measures to you as a father, because she trusted you to say, you can take her, right? And that's a daughter, like I can see if it was a son, it's a little girl.
But that's what happened, and so I had my apartment, so I took her.
So how were you able? And so moving forward with you having her, you ended up being mom probably like when Toya was around what age?
Victoria was around 5 or 6.
And how were you able, I guess my question was then moving to the blended family thing, where it was just you and your daughter for a little while. How were you able to like maintain that daddy-daughter bond when you met a new woman and you getting married now? How were you able to, and like what was your priority when you were getting a new spouse?
Just like her priority, Diana's priority, it was like these kids come first.
Yeah.
I knew her kid came first, and she knew my kid came first. And we were going to do what we had to do to raise those kids correctly. And I didn't, we were, like we went to Pocahontas State Park, and the kids fell asleep in the back of my EXP. So, we raised the kids at having fun. Just taking them and having fun. No stipulations.
Yeah. And how did you maintain the daddy-daughter bond with your daughter, with you bringing a new woman into the situation?
My daughter already knew we had a bond, so, and I made sure she realized nobody could ever break that bond.
Yeah.
She was always, she still jumped on my lap and played with me. And we always went things, and sometimes it was just me and her. Sometimes I'll just take her out, like go get some ice cream or something like that. and let her know, yeah, Daddy's still here.
Right. And when did you get full custody of her? How old was she?
Full custody is a catchword,
Yeah.
because I never really got full custody of her. I just took her.
Right.
I mean, I just raised her.
So my question would be, what was it like doing hair? Like did you have a village? How did it work?
No, in the beginning, I did her hair and they were sticking up every kind of off. I knew how to plait because I had an afro.
Okay.
So I plait my hair, so I started plaiting her hair. But it wasn't great. So in other times, I took her down to my cousin's house and let her braid her hair.
Yeah.
So I always had somebody help me when I couldn't do it. But sometimes I just had to do it myself. And I did, you know. And like you say, as you do it, you get better.
Yeah, it gets easier.
Yes.
Because you stated before you didn't really have like an example of a dad in your life, how were you able to step up the way that you did?
Well, it was that drive that drove me.
Mm.
Not having a dad that drove me to be a great dad. To always put my kids first. I always put my kids first. And you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
The fact that he wasn't in my life ever, so I was like, well, I'm gonna make sure I'm always in my kids' life. And I do remember holding my daughter
Yeah.
and saying, I will always be in your life. So
When she was born?
when she was born. So.
I love that. And as we follow up, what advice would you give the young man who didn't have a dad or a father figure growing up on how to be a father? And, you know, sometimes we see men, they use that as a crutch a little bit. Like, what advice would you give him, you know, if maybe the odds are stacked against him? Because you have a great story, you know, where you could have easily given up, but you didn't. So what advice would you give him?
You gotta step up to the plate. You have to love your child so much that you say, it's me and her against the world. You know, you have to do that. You have to say, I'm gonna be able to bond with this child no matter what, and nothing's gonna stop me. That was my drive. Nothing's gonna stop you from being a dad if you wanna be a dad. Nothing. You go out and get your job, you do what you're supposed to support your child. I mean, that's what it takes. You do it.
Right, because even with the child support thing, a lot of times you see men, they run away from child support. They like, I don't want to be.
I went to the court to ask for child support so that I could see my child.
You having a dynamic of, you know, having a blended family, and then you had a daughter already, and then you have another daughter. What is the dynamics of trying to, you know, differentiate the two with you having two girls in your life?
Difference is, it was night and day, raising you two. My oldest child was quiet, didn't want to ever get into anything. Alana, you were into everything. You wanted to be a part of everything. You questioned every little thing that we told you to do. Whether good or bad, you know, you were a great student. You know, you're really good in school, but you questioned every little thing that we wanted for you. That's the difference between you and my oldest child. You questioned everything, and you were into everything. She was quiet. I mean, there were times that you got to whip her. I never had to whip my oldest child. So,
And I heard that a few times.
but the difference is also that I had Donita there to help me.
Yeah.
So Donita would be like, well, I'm gonna tell your dad this, and a lot of times I'll come to your defense.
Yeah.
Because once well, she did this and she did. I said, well, we're gonna give her a break. So I let her go. So you know, yeah. Between you and my oldest child, it was definitely different. Y'all were definitely two different kids to raise.
Yeah, and even I feel like growing up, you were kind of like the sensitive one. I feel like for you, most of the time you'll have a relationship with your mom where, you know, I have a good relationship with mom, but growing up I feel like I would feel more comfortable coming to you because you're calmer. So how are you able to do that when it comes to girls? Like, you know, some dads are like, I don't want to talk about that, or no, I can't, you know, you weren't really like that.
Well, because I'm tight with my kids. I like to be, I'm really nurturing.
Yeah.
And I kiss on my kids all the time.
Right.
And so when they're young, I kiss on them all the time and play with them and jump. I act like a kid myself sometimes.
Yeah.
So therefore, it was easy to talk to you. Now, sometimes it's kind of hard to separate when I had to discipline you because I hated doing it, but I knew it was necessary evil.
Right, I always say that. I would say, like, even if I would get a discipline or get a spanking, at the end you come back like, I I didn't want to do it. I love you, but I'm doing it for your own good.
Exactly.
Which made it easier, which is why I think that I don't mind disciplining my kids, because it comes from a place of love. I know it's not, I didn't feel like you were, abusing me or whatever the case is. I didn't feel that way. My dad means to me stability. My dad is stable. Like, I know whatever goes on in my life, he's gonna always be there. I get teary-eyed and nervous and sad sometimes when I think about my parents leaving, because I don't know what I'm gonna do. Because they're always there, I'm always calling them, and they're there for me. So that's what they mean to me, stability.
Rolanda is my namesake, and we always say that. So I always want to be there for her. I don't think I've ever told her no. If she wants me to do something, I always do it. Even if I feel like I don't want to do it, I'm always there for her. And that's with all my kids. I'm always there. I never tell my kids no, unless it's something that I think they shouldn't have. But with Rolanda, I don't think I've ever told her no. She said, Dad, I need you to do this. Dad, I need you to do that. Come do this for me. Come do that for me. Cut my grass. Do this. And I'm always there for her. So.
Right.
Thank you guys for watching, doing that segment. We're gonna close out by just asking our dads 2 more questions in really hopes of really touching a dad out there that's a new dad. So, Rolanda, hit them with the first one.
Yeah, so first question would be, what values do you hope to have instilled in your children as they navigate their own lives?
I like the value of always putting God first in your life. You have to put God first. If you don't put God first, then nothing else will fall into place. That's number one. And always be who you are. Be humble and be who you are. And you'll go far in life.
I love that. How about you, Dad?
Definitely the same thing. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. In all the ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. It's the second value I always try to instill in them, is to anticipate the need of those you love. Anticipate the need. You don't have to wait for people to ask you. I'll tell you what they need. If you love people and those who you love, anticipate the need.
Yeah, I love that. And our closing question for you guys, and I want y'all to dig deep in your heart. Looking forward, what are your hopes and dreams for your children and their future families?
My hope and dream for my children and future family, one, that my children will live long and be prosperous and successful in all the ways.
Amen.
My dream is also that not only are they successful, that happiness, that they find happiness in what we do and who they're with. For me, it's very important that I have 3 girls, and they are going to teach us, not that I don't think of you guys that much. But I want to see my daughters happy, at all costs. And that's my anticipation for them. And I believe that's worth more than houses and gold. If they're married to a man, just make them happy. That's what I want.
Aww.
Well, my kids are doing well. Thank God. They're doing well. And just want them to keep doing what they're doing. And like I said, put God first. And that's one of the main reasons why they're doing so well.
Yeah.
Because I brought that up in them from the kids. Always put God first and believe God. And Proverbs, the read, I think that's what you just quoted right there. I love that scripture. Yeah, that's all. Just keep doing what you're doing. Because they're doing well. They're doing well. Awesome.
Aw, thanks, Dad. Dads. And honestly, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. We love you guys. You guys don't get enough credit. We don't tell you enough. You guys are appreciated. You guys are the pillar of the household. Without you guys, dysfunction happens. So please keep doing what you're doing. And if you're not doing anything, now's the time to step up and start doing something.
You're needed. You're definitely needed. So I'm glad we can have you guys here today and just spread the love and your knowledge and wisdom around fatherhood. And I hope that this helps someone out there.
Yes. So, did we drop an egg?
I don't think so.
We did. did not.
Well, we could just use, we started a new segment today at the beginning. So if you didn't watch the beginning, go back and see what you're supposed to put in the comments.
And the person with the most interesting growth story, we have a little gem for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So thank you guys, and until next time, keep blooming, and we'll see you next week, Monday. Bye, guys. Like us, subscribe.